Hello, Internet. It's time for another Wednesday's serial because I'm going to do something I don't do very often. Wax poetic on Batman. For the uninitiated at this point, you should catch up. There was a very noteworthy podcast, Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith, talking to Grant Morrison about a lot of things. But the notable clip was about The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. Now, in the clip, look it up if you haven't heard it, because it's actually kind of interesting. Basically, Grant Morrison talks about the ending and about how the whole point of The Killing Joke is that Batman kills the Joker. And that's the entire supposition. And then it kind of caught on fire, got a life of its own, and there's a number of things that fell out. People talking about how they read it, how they believed it was. A lot of people saying, "Oh, I never thought of it that way before. That's interesting," which is interesting. Then there was a lot of people that came out were like, "Of course that's what it was. How could you think of anything otherwise?" And that's when I started to get a little. Also, notably, of opinions of people who talked about it, there's already been a bunch of videos, obviously. I'm sure you've seen at least one. Howler Mouse did an interesting one. Scott Grady did a really great video about it. Just kind of skip over the parts where he's talking about the fact that he doesn't own an OG copy of The Killing Joke, because no one does. And then James Donnelly pulled a Donnelly on it and talked about it at length as well. Now, there's a lot to say why people think Batman killed the Joker. Grant Morrison lays it out pretty well. The idea that it's come to this point, they've talked about the fact that this is the only way it can really end, and then this whole idea of the scene and then kind of the pan away, and I kind of want to get to that later because I kind of have an opinion on that. But the main idea is that at the very end there's this joke, the Killing Joke, as set up with Joker being a failed comedian before, and then it ends abruptly, and then that's it. The idea being that because of the layout, and if you look at it, Batman's like, "Rah!" And the idea apparently is that Batman choked him to death. Yeah. Brian Bolland on Comics Alliance actually has a great kind of counter opinion talking about it, where he sets up the reason why he doesn't believe the ending is a killing. The chiefest is that Gordon, at the end, who's suffered the most out of anyone this night, even So Brian Bolland of Comics Alliance actually has a great counter opinion to all of this, talking about how Jim Gordon is the one who suffered the most throughout this entire ordeal. I mean, certainly Barbara's the most notable, but for this night, even Barbara's humiliation, all of that, is only more to amplify Jim's Gordon, and Joker's trying to use Jim as the point of anybody can go mad with one bad day. Which is actually interesting, too, because later people bring up the idea that Alan Moore didn't really say anything greater, except it was just kind of a weird, almost character analysis with this book, so it didn't feel as a great piece. But it was about something. It was about the idea of one bad day driving someone mad or not. And that's part of it, is that at the end of this, Jim Gordon's pissed. He's angry. I mean, he's mad, but he's not insane, which is the idea. And he says to Batman, after everything he's gone through, I want him brought in. I want him brought in by the book. Like, so Joker didn't win. After all the horrible atrocities, he didn't win. And if Batman was to go kill the Joker, after that, what right would he have? How would that work? Like, if Gordon can stand up in the face of all this, then what right does Batman have not to? And not to honor the wish of his friend that's had the worst night of his life, and the kind of vengeance that he wants is the kind that should be served. And he stated he wants it done by the book. So the idea of Batman then going killing him makes, like, just sounds like a weak story. Like, that just doesn't work. And that's Bolland's assertion, and I have to agree with that. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to any of the characters. It doesn't make sense to anything else. Also, Bolland points out, if you look at the panel where the idea is that Batman's reaching out to choke Joker, really his hands are a bit lower, so they're not near his neck, so that doesn't quite add up either. Now I'm going to add in something of my own on top of this, kind of in the following frames. So I don't believe Batman's trying to choke him. Also, people talk about an abrupt laughter. There's laughter all through this last page, and then even into the last strip. If you look at a 9-panel grid as 3 strips stacked on top of each other, the last strip starts with laughter trailing off. And then also, this strip is kind of a camera... I feel like it's like zooming in and panning down slowly is the idea, which really bugs me, because the idea of such like subtle cinematography kind of meaning and play and work in a comic doesn't fit. It's a comic, it's not a movie. You can't do that. It doesn't mean anything in a comic like that. So it's just these weird last panels, and it's supposed to be ambiguous, and clearly it is. We're talking about it, we're here. And this isn't the first time a lot of people have had this debate. It's there. So, I don't know. But that laughter is there at the end, so it does kind of trail off. It doesn't abruptly end. Also, in my mind, there's a larger play here. So there were certain people, no one in the community that I heard, but were saying, like, of course it's the killing joke, you know. It's in the title, it's this, it's that, duh. And I say, no, not duh. You really aren't led to believe that. And that's one thing that I hate, is a lot of people that are saying it's so obvious are reading it like it's a movie or a novelette or something of that sort, like some sort of singular piece where all of the logic of the piece is contained within itself. And that's bullshit. It's Batman. This is very much serial comics. We have an entire long of reading this, and the idea of Joker dying is so dumb. Like, he dodges death every time. The first time he appeared, he was supposed to die, and then they kind of wrote it out. So basically, he dodged death. And then, yeah, there's the whole Goofy period and all that. But I mean, in pretty much every appearance of the Joker, he gets away with a near-death experience, or should be presumed dead, but after a while, people stop doing that because it's the Joker, and they know he's going to return. So the idea of him being killed doesn't quite work, because we assume essentially that he can't die for everything. And it's also, just given the long of comics, you can't consider it a confirmed kill, basically, unless it's on the page. And there's some weird use of colors. It actually starts red, like almost like Batman would kill him, and then the colors kind of fade, which does kind of give that feeling of like ebbing life for sure. But also it means, like, with the idea of a red hit as a kill shot, like, those colors aren't there when he's supposedly killed. So it doesn't it doesn't fit. That plays very well to the ambiguity of it all. The other thing is people are saying, like, this is an Elseworlds title. This might be revisionist history, but it's still there that this is considered very much a part of continuity, more so remembered and talked about and used than nearly any other Batman story, save the origin. It plays to Barbara, it plays to Gordon, and it plays the whole Batman-Joker relationship, and it's considered basically the greatest Joker story of all time, which I think isn't true, but it's definitely relevant to a lot of people, and kind of in a trifecta of Batman stories. And I don't know, and to say that that's not continuity, that doesn't count, doesn't work. And so the idea that Batman kills Joker but then Joker shows up again, there's no talk about it ever, doesn't seem to fit. But it does seem like a moment everybody wanted to forget. So I don't know. Curious to see how people interpret it. I feel like most everything's been said at this point, but if there's something new, that would be great if you could find some new corner to add on to this. But I felt like, at the very least, I wanted to say that it is certainly ambiguous, and if you feel it's clear-cut either way, you're wrong. But I think because of the general idea of it being a Batman comic, it really only lends itself to one conclusion. But that's my argument. I don't feel that it's clearly obvious. I just feel that ultimately it is that way. So, there you have it. Good night all.